Hi, everyone. I'm Dan McDermott from the McDermott Report. Joining me from New York is Alan Furstenberg. Welcome, Alan. Alan, just
Hey, Dan.
okay. So I understand in our lipstick on a pig segment, we we have. I'm just kidding, of course. We have a new Google Plus web preview. Why are they calling it a web preview? When is that? So, like, if anything's wrong, in the unlikely instance where something's wrong with it, they can say, "Oh, it's a preview." Like Amazon will one day make money.
Basically.
Yeah. So I see there was an initial post and then a follow up. And the first one was funny because they showed something about unmuting people or whatever. And as the demo, they had who do they have muted?
They had Mark Zuckerberg and Britney Spears muted.
Can you imagine those two together? There's something you can't unsee.
So, as Dan wanders off the screen for no obvious reason, yes, they announced some new versions rolling out on the web. The most notable of which is that there were 101 bug fixes. Why they always list the number of bug fixes without actually listing which bugs were fixed really amazes me, as if it tries to show, yes, we're actually working on something, even though you don't care. They finally improved the search results to actually search for people, so that's kind of nice. An absolutely useless update for the following screen, so you can now see which people are in your following circle, but not any of your other circles. Ability to see who you've muted, and you can unmute them in the activity log. You do remember we have an activity log, right? Because it's in the most obvious of locations. And finally, the feature that I think everyone has just simply been dying for, you can click on a person's profile picture, and it will show you that profile picture in full screen mode. And even better, if they had other profile pictures, you can scroll between them and see them all. Isn't that exciting, Dan?
Yeah. So.
And then they came out with this other announcement that in addition to all of those wonderful things, all of those things that we are so glad they have introduced to this new and vastly improved Google+, they have given us a little indicator at the top of the screen to tell us that there are more posts in the stream. Isn't that glorious, Dan?
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I hate the photos still. If first of all, to go to I looked at both posts using Chrome, which is a Google product. I I I clicked on the thing, I saw the post, and then I wanted to click on their demo, the photograph with the post. It goes to a new tab or does whatever the hell it does, and there's nothing. And then I have to refresh to get the photo to show up. Then
That's known as a bug. See, in one of the 101 bugs that they fixed,
this must be the
that was not one of them.
This was the 102nd bug. And then you can't like just click out of the picture to get back where you were. You've got to click the little left arrow or hit the escape key, which is a huge fail. It's a pain in the ass. Why make Google
That
Plus
is going to
harder?
be the dumbest complaint I've ever heard about their photo issues, and trust me, there are plenty. You
No, I
can't
mean,
just click out of it because in the case where there's more than one, you can click between them. That's why there is an arrow or the escape key there. That's standard UI shit.
it's not because like, if I'm in Facebook or whatever, I don't think it's.
It is, Dan.
All right, so there's a Google Plus. It's what's new again.
No.
Yeah. All right, so what's next here? We've got some Android Wear improvements, and I have to check on a potential bug while you talk about that. I'll be back.
Android Wear improvements. Yes. Yeah, so one of, as you might remember, several months back, we had the Marshmallow release of Android come out for mobile devices. And now all of the Wear devices that are out there are getting an update to the Marshmallow release. So all of them, rolling out to all of them, they don't all get it at once, but rolling out to all of them will be the latest version, and in this, it introduces a number of things that we've been waiting for with Android itself. So the incremental and fine-grained permissions is now part of your mobile device. A number of other authentication systems are part of it. Included specifically in the Wear portion of it is that they've now got new wrist gestures, so you can be doing all sorts of funky gesturing um, and not have to use your other hand to swipe or anything. Um, a wide range of chat apps can now use voice to get replies. If your watch has a speaker, you can make and listen to messages using it, and a number of other minor improvements as well. So some decent stuff showing that Wear is actively improving as we go.
Do we have any numbers on Android Wear versus the iWatch? Is anyone?
I'm sure somebody has them. I don't have them off the top of my head, but I guess I could look them up while we, pontificate or something.
Do you
Or
have?
maybe one of our viewers in the comments. And remember, everyone, we welcome your comments. We'll look that up for us, and we'll report on it later in the show.
So, are you actively using Glass or Android Wear or both or neither, or when
Well,
you're out and about?
I'm continuing to actively use Glass, which has some Wear notifications as part of it. I no longer use any of my Wear devices. I gave one to my father, and he uses it quite actively. And the other one apparently died due to a hardware failure.
Which one died?
My Moto 360.
Interesting.
Yeah, apparently, and I haven't looked into this further, there is a bug, a hardware bug with the Moto 360 that if you leave it on the charger, it will eventually kill the battery. And since I never wear it, I left it on the charger.
Wow, that's like from the '80s that stuff did that.
It's apparently a flaw. It's a design flaw, but it's a known design flaw.
And it's out of warranty, of course, and you got it for free.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
okay,
And I never used it, so it's really hard for me to complain.
indeed. Okay. All right. Next is Amit Singhal. How do you pronounce it?
I believe it's Amit Singhal, yeah.
Singhal. So he is leaving Google, and I forget what he did. It wasn't the search graph.
I forget what he did. He's only been at Google for 15 years,
I
led the
know.
search team,
I
led the
had
machine
all
learning team for
60,000
a while.
employees' roles memorized at one point, and I've lost my touch.
He's a senior vice president. He's a Google fellow. I don't even remember what employee number he is, but it's a low numbered one. Yeah, he's been there forever. And he is leaving Google.
So who's taking his place?
I actually don't think that was specifically announced, but the team's been in place to take over the functions that he's been working on, so it's not a huge surprise. He's been working on, I believe he's been working in the machine learning portion of search for a while now, and turned that over to a different group.
Now you think it's totally voluntary?
Oh, I think it's pretty clear it's totally voluntary.
He's rich and wants to play. I mean,
He's rich. He's been in this for 15 years. He kind of looked and said, what do I want to do for the next 15 years? And he's at a point where he wants to more directly give back to other people, he said. So he's, I'm trying to find exactly where he said what he's doing. So the answer is overwhelmingly been give back to others. It's always been a priority for me to give back to people who are less fortunate and make time for my family amidst competing work constraints, but on both fronts, I simply want to give and do more. So it's clear he's not heading off to another company. He's just going and doing something more fun with his life.
okay.
Or more meaningful for his life.
If only we could be on a similar path. Okay. All right. So that's cool. Good for him. Good for Amit. Next is this was funny. There was a story. Google has toppled Apple as the world's most valuable company. And then like 10 minutes later, wasn't it the next day?
I think it took a whole day,
It was
but
but it was a great day. Wine was opened, I'm sure, at Googleplex.
so yeah, the market capitalization of Google surpassed that of Apple briefly. I believe it's back under it now, but it's still pretty close, and it's an indicator that both companies are incredibly valuable. I think the big thing to note is that after Google's most recent quarterly report. After that report, Google's stock price surged, while after Apple's quarterly report, their stock price sank. And I think it's an indicator that investors, at least, who don't actually know anything, for some reason are putting great faith in Alphabet, while they have some serious questions about what Apple is doing. So even though Alphabet is, for everything besides Google, they've got, a few $1 billion loss. It doesn't seem to matter right now.
Okay. Yeah, it's a smart move, I guess. I still don't understand why everyone was clamoring, and this seemed logical to do Alphabet instead of Google having.
Well, define everyone.
I mean, I heard there was unanimity on Wall Street and the investors saying, "Oh, this is great."
Okay, that's not everyone. That's a pack of morons.
I mean, they're holding billions of dollars in Google.
Okay, so it's a pack of morons with billions of dollars. The reason why they wanted, basically, they didn't care exactly how it was done, but they were increasingly worried about the fact that Google was doing all of these other things that it wasn't clear how they even vaguely related to advertising, which is what everyone thought Google is. So by creating Alphabet, Alphabet was now able to say, look, we've got our search and advertising company, and we have all of these other companies. These are all other investments of ours. And eventually we hope they will make money. But if they don't, we can just cut them out, and it'll be obvious to you, the investors, how much money we will be saving by cutting them out. That wasn't as obvious when it was under Google. So Wall Street likes transparency, or at least they think they like transparency. And this is a case where they essentially rewarded rewarded Alphabet for being more transparent, even though they didn't actually change anything.
Okay. And Joshua Kidd says his Moto 360 did the same thing. It barely holds a charge now. It almost, at least his works at all. You said yours is dead, or like it works
Mine
for
is
5
dead.
minutes?
Mine is dead.
I'd be pissed if I had actually purchased, because it was a gorgeous looking. Was it as good looking wearing? I mean, having as it looked really cool when they announced it in the pictures.
It was okay.
Did it feel like a nice sturdy thing, or like Chinese crap?
More or less, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I had no strong complaints with the build.
Now your brick comes with a strap, and
it's a round brick.
It's a what?
Round brick.
It's a round brick, indeed. The expensive kind that barely holds a charge. Okay, next is Google Photos allows you to create animations and collages on the web. This was yours, right? I don't think I read this one.
Yeah, this was one of the things that Google Photos screwed up when they originally rolled out, is that they had the ability for you to create a bunch of things on your mobile device. So if you have the right flavor of mobile device, you could create a movie. You can select on a bunch of photos and create an animation, but you had to do it from a mobile device. You couldn't do it from the web. So finally, they've gotten around to implementing this on the web. I don't know why it took them so long, because you could find half a dozen of these on the web, but Google finally got around to it. Kudos for the Google Photos team for once again implementing features they should have rolled out with production.
Rare praise from Alan Furstenberg. All right, so there we go. Excited about that. Okay, this one I totally. Uh, Google is less than enthusiastic. They're warning about Komodo Chromodo. I guess this is an antivirus thing for Chrome, but then it ends up switching you to their Chrome-like but not Chrome unsecure browser. Is that kind of it in a nutshell?
That's you're even being a little bit generous there. So basically, Komodo is an internet suite, or sorry, an internet security suite. And one of the things that it does, which they don't exactly tell you, is that it replaces Chrome with a version of Chrome known as Chromodo. Um, they also do some other things like change your DNS settings, so you don't know where your network results are actually where your network is actually going when you try to go somewhere. Um, so they have taken so what Chromodo does is, although it claims it's a private browser, there's nothing about it that actually is private. The biggest thing that it does is changes something known as the same origin policy. Under every real legitimate browser that's out there, and this includes Microsoft's browsers, they know what they're doing. If you try to load, when you load a page, all modern web pages try to load other stuff. So it will try to load an image, it tries to load JavaScript, it tries to load a bunch of other things. When it loads the JavaScript, it enforces a security policy known as the same origin policy. Unless that website has taken very specific steps to authorize other access. And what this same origin policy says is the only thing that can look at my web page are other things that I have loaded from the same site. Chromodo turns this off. So basically, any JavaScript, anything else that gets loaded on a web page can read the contents of that web page or read the contents of the browser or change the browser settings or do whatever the hell it wants. This is a massive, massive security vulnerability. And the fact that a company that pretends to know something about internet security did this borders on malicious.
So it wasn't oops, it was malicious.
I can't imagine why it would be an oops thing.
And how do
I
they
can't imagine why they would put in their own browser and deliberately remove this
and
unless they had a reason for doing so.
how do they benefit?
Basically, it means that they can now load JavaScript on your browser that does whatever the hell they want it to do rather than whatever the hell you want it to do.
And Chrome is open source?
Chrome is technically based on an open source product called Chromium. Now, it so happens that just about every committer to Chromium works for a company known as Google in a division known as the Chrome division. So, sort of. But Chrome itself is not open source, but there is an open source version of it, if that makes any sense.
So you can download and run Chromium. And then there's Canary, which is like a pre-release version or a separate branch.
Canary is a pre-release version of Chrome.
So it's whistles and bells that may or may not make it, and also more bug prone than the regular one. It would be for developers.
Usually Canary is them saying, hey, this is our first guess at what we're going to release for the next version of, for not even the next version of Chrome, 2 versions of Chrome down the road.
Okay. I think at one point I had Canary and I couldn't tell any difference. All right. Next up is, okay, teens' use of social media. This was an interesting chart. I think we found this from Mark Trappigan. who shared it on Google Plus, and this is from a Business Insider thing here. I'll show you the main. I'm going to show the main. All right, this is the main chart that he shared, and you see the darker blue is 2014 spring, and then in spring of 2015 is the lighter blue. So we see that Instagram has gone marginally up, Twitter marginally down, Facebook significantly down. And I don't know, maybe they said it, I don't know if this means if they've used it at all or how much they use it, right? Snapchat is at 13%. Tumblr and then Google Plus is gone from 4% to 1%. Just a blip. Pinterest, 2%. I'm surprised Pinterest isn't higher. I'm not sure other, and don't use social networks. Interestingly, that was actually at 5% a year ago, and now it's at 0. So Instagram is basically still just photos, right? You take
Yep.
and then Snapchat used to be just I'd send you a funny picture or teen sexting or whatever it was, and then now I guess there's content, but I don't know how well that's been received. But I hear a lot of people talking about Snapchat, and 13% from nothing is great. So I still think I've seen, and for the show I specifically looked at some Facebook friends. I say friends, like kids of my friends who have added me, befriended me on Facebook, and I looked at what they post, right? And I had to go find them because they don't show up in my stream. So I had to go look at my friends and see. I see one kid who posted like, well, here my senior pictures came in. They don't post like they used to a year or 2 or 3 ago. Like my boyfriend or girlfriend dumped me, or I hope I get a better job, or just random things they would tell the other kids. Now they're more reserved. So I still think they're using Facebook, but they're using it knowing that their grandma and their mom and dad and aunt and uncle are going to watch it, and their potential employer. I think that's beaten into them now. So I think they're still using it, but to a much less extent. I think people are on to the thing that I think all those PSAs about watch what you post because it can come back to haunt you. I think kids get that now, more so than they would have 4 years ago. But what do you glean from this, Alan, other than the obvious that they're going where it's not so public?
I don't know. It isn't clear to me that they're going where they're not so public. I find it interesting. Their sample size was only 60 teenagers.
Oh, well, yeah. I wasn't aware of that.
Well, that's because I read the article and you looked at the pictures.
It's a nice picture, though. It's a nice lines and colors.
Some of it, I mean, there are other interesting aspects to it. I think the one of the things I did think was interesting was Twitter was not nearly as unpopular as I think anyone would have expected. It only went down in usage very slightly, compared to Facebook's drop. And I think that goes to the nature of it's fine for blasting out a quick notification. The commentary basically said it's fine for blasting out a quick notification, but they didn't say anything about actually reading stuff there. Facebook suffers from the problem of everybody's on Facebook, and who the hell wants to be where everyone else is? Other than that, it's nothing about it is terribly surprising.
Twitter and I don't know. I don't think Instagram does. Twitter and Facebook have a private messaging feature.
Yeah, but nobody uses it for either of them.
Facebook Messenger is
Well, Facebook Messenger is popular, yes, but
Yeah.
that's different than using Facebook.
correct. Although I don't know if that's necessarily the case for this chart, is it?
No, it's irrelevant to the chart. It was later in the article that they talk about how Facebook is still incredibly popular, although not as popular as actually using SMS messages.
Okay. Yeah, that's still the thing. I think adults do a lot of email versus SMS. Because
Who still uses email?
email can go to whatever device or desktop versus SMS, which um, used to, right? When Google Voice did it and Hangouts did it, and now I guess I don't know. I just do regular phone SMS now. I given up on the crap, the workarounds that either don't work well or work for a little while and they take it away. Just um, no more. Okay.
Well, I'm glad, Dan, even though I've got no idea what you're saying. Anyway, next.
No, I'm saying that I use SMS just as a phone thing to my phone. I don't use it with Hangouts as my SMS thing, so I can use it on multi-platforms anymore because it doesn't work anymore, or it works for a
Sure, it
while. And
does. Works great. Use it all the time.
Okay. All right. Okay, so there we go. Next is the number of tweets. This is not really disputed, is what I say here. A guy looked at an API. I guess he has tracked this for a number of years, and he said they peaked, I don't know, whatever year it was, a few years ago, at like 600 and something million, and now it's like at 300 and something. So he says the number of tweets has dramatically declined. Their stock price has declined. They've fired their CEO. There are rumors that they're about to be purchased or soliciting or being solicited for purchase. I think it'd be great if Google bought them. But
why do you think it would be great if Google bought them?
I don't know.
Because Google is so knowledgeable about how to run a social network.
Well, they could monetize this. They choose not to monetize Google Plus for reasons. Well, I guess it doesn't matter now since no one uses it. But the Twitter, I think their big thing, their big mistake is they should just concede that, in fact, a lot of people are going to read and not so many people are going to post, which is the same for Facebook and other sites. And so I don't know why they don't just put more ads on the reading experience and generate revenue.
What makes you think they don't?
Well, they're not making any money, so they
Well,
need
that's
to put
because
more.
their ads aren't worth anything.
I don't mean like
I look at my Twitter feed and it is either ads or crap that I have no idea where it came from.
Okay, when
I
you
find
say
Twitter
ads,
utterly useless.
are you talking about ads or are you talking about promoted tweets?
I have no earthly clue what the difference is.
Well, an ad would be like what you'd see on a news website or whatever on the right in a box, a banner thing. The only thing I ever see are just tweets, promoted tweets.
Do you really think an ad would look halfway decent in Twitter?
I don't know. I mean, profit isn't about looks. I would tolerate it. I get content there. I read 1,000 tweets for every one that I post.
I have trouble reading a single tweet. I find the entire interface cluttered and confusing.
You don't have that kind of attention span? 140 characters?
It's not that I don't have that kind of attention span. I don't have that tolerance for bullshit.
Well, it's who you follow.
No, it's
talking about
apparently
the
not who
UI?
I follow because I've got tons of tweets in there that don't make that I don't recognize who it's from.
If you have tons of them, have you people you've not followed?
I don't can't imagine that I would have.
Is it something that one of your followers has retweeted? Because that would show up in your stream.
Probably, but that's obvious as shit. At any rate.
Maybe you're seeing more ads than I am.
At any rate. So I'm not quite sure why you say that Twitter denied why Twitter didn't really deny this, when literally the paragraph under the pretty picture is, quote, "This data is not correct," close quote. A spokesperson for Twitter told Business Insider.
Okay, so if they said 660 million is the peak and now it's 340 million, and it's really 341 million or 329 million, this data is not correct. That's a bullshit response. They said this is wildly inaccurate and gives no conceptual clue at all what's going on. You know what? They could put up or shut up. If they want to show the real numbers, if they're just going to say, oh, this is not accurate, it could be wildly inaccurate or it could be very slightly inaccurate. A date could be off. That's a non-denial denial. A non-concession denial, also known as bullshit. So that's why I say they don't really deny it. They kind of deny it. They could have had a stronger denial. But everyone knows they're going to the tank, which is a shame because I like to, that's the best place to get the most breaking news. Good place to watch tweets if there's something going on. It's a great place if you're into politics and you're watching a debate when Bernie and Hillary or Trump and the other guys. It's great for that. It's great for sporting events. So there you go. Apparently, it's not a great place to make money. All right, next is, okay, this is the error 53 with the iPhone. And this is interesting. Apparently, if you get iOS 9 point whatever, if you have had certain repairs done to your phone, it will brick your phone. You'll get an error 53. And it looks to me like it's a security feature that if someone's trying to break into your phone to get to your data, it'll go into this mode. And it is now like there was a guy like months ago, he was a reporter. Months ago, he was in some country, I forget, like third world, an emerging economy country. And there was no like Apple store. So he went to some guy and, he fixed his phone. And then when he got the iOS 9, it bricked it with the error 53 and he lost all his data. What's the deal with this?
It's not even if you get certain repairs. In some cases, it's if you accidentally damage your phone in certain ways, that it will come up with error 53. And on one hand, I can see why this is doing it. So basically they're saying one argument could be made that if there is a chance that someone has installed a hardware workaround for your thumbprint reader, then maybe they can steal or forge your thumbprint. Therefore, Apple has to protect you from any unauthorized action. Unfortunately, the method that they're doing it, which is bricking your phone, that kind of goes a little extreme. And in fact, the only thing that can be done if you bring this to an Apple store is buy a new one.
That's not a great solution.
No, especially not when you actually have data on your phone that because you've got an Apple device, you don't have it anywhere else.
But do we agree that most likely this is a security aspect gone awry rather than a deliberate attempt to void warranties for repair? Because they don't make their money that way. It wouldn't be worth the PR.
Sure, they make their money that way.
They don't make it significant enough to piss off people.
They don't care about pissing off people.
Frankly, I think it would be actionable if they were to deliberately do something like that. If you go to a non-authorized repair shop and it bricks your phone, I think if they did that deliberately, that would be a hell of a class action lawsuit.
Really? On what grounds?
That they destroyed your product because you went to repair it.
You didn't go to repair it. Well, I mean, one could argue that you are repairing it with unauthorized material that can jeopardize both your and Apple's reputation.
That sounds like bullshit. That sounds like the people who make the inkjet cartridges. You should work for them. Well, like that guy.
I happen to think in this case, it sounds more like it is a security. It is there for security purposes. I think that's actually somewhat of a legitimate argument. I think it's a little bit bogus, but it is somewhat of a legitimate argument.
Can you buy genuine Apple parts?
No. Well, sure you can. You can buy them from a genuine Apple retailer who will also reinstall those parts for you.
Pam, who is refusing to join us, her boycott continues. Her week-long boycott.
Wasn't she here last week?
I know. It's a week-long. It's now in its sixth day. Her boycott. It's a hunger strike, I tell you. She says, she notes, you don't own your device. I guess you own the physical product, right? They can't demand you get it back. You have a right.
That's true. You do own your device. You don't own the operating system that runs on it.
This was demonstrated with Google Glass when someone was attempting to sell it on eBay when it was an exclusive thing, when they were really selective. Remember they said that they would brick them if you did that? But
Yeah,
that
but
was
they
in the
never did.
terms. And on the Chrome thing, I assume Pam says Google likes to name things the same as other things: wallet, 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 Chrome, Chrome, Chromium. All right, so yeah, so that's luckily I've not had any repairs on my phone because I got 9 and I don't have the Error 53. So it's a good way to sell iCloud, which will back up all your stuff. Okay, next is okay. So I totally didn't get this. I didn't read this. I printed a paper and I'm a zombie. Um, Microsoft's Microsoft Edge's in private mode isn't so private or whatever.
Isn't actually private. I mean, that's just absolute brilliancy on the part of Microsoft.
And this is the company
So
that brought us Scroogled and all this other
if,
stuff.
if you're familiar with Chrome, for example, you know that Chrome introduced something called incognito mode. And what incognito mode does is when you open it up, it doesn't have access to any of the cookies that you may normally have stored. It doesn't save any cookies that are generated on the page. It doesn't save the page in the cache itself. Pretty much when you close incognito mode, everything that you did in there vanishes.
Pam taught us how to use incognito mode.
Firefox has a similar mode. I think even Safari has a similar mode. So, of course, the Edge browser needed a similar mode as well. The catch is that in what they call in private, all of your activity in private mode is still saved to the Edge cache. So it records all of your browsing history in there. And you can easily get all of that information back out if you wanted to look for it. So private mode isn't even vaguely private. Now, Microsoft has said this is a bug, and they're working on a fix.
Okay, and Edge is the new Internet Explorer, right?
Correct.
Which is Windows 10 forward?
Correct.
So even though I have 7, and they're really trying to get me to switch on my laptop, let me tell you. They don't.
Oh, hey, they've made even another change this week. This week, the Windows 10 upgrade was moved to what they call recommended status. So if you were using a computer that you've set to install all recommended upgrades, you suddenly have Windows 10.
Yeah, the reaction Microsoft is getting from me by recommending Windows 10 on my laptop is similar to what Google experienced when they recommended Google Plus forcefully to all the YouTube users. Yeah. Okay, so there we go. Microsoft Edge's in private mode isn't. All right, next is something we've discussed for years. And I guess they're going to still do it, but not what I envisioned. Amazon, according to the Wall Street Journal, citing a mall CEO, saying, not Simon, I forget which mall company, said that Amazon is planning to open hundreds of brick and mortar retail stores. And I remember some people say, what the hell, that's crazy. But it's not. And remember that Amazon knows what sells in every little town. They know exactly what sells in every little town. And frankly, there are costs saved by having a physical local presence, because if they know, like, let's say they're going to sell the new Adele CD for people who still buy CDs. Let's say there's a new John Grisham book, and they know they're going to sell X number in San Francisco or in Rochester, wherever. It's actually a lot cheaper to ship a pallet of those books to the store, the local mall, than to ship each book individually to all these consumers. So, and they're also going to sell Kindle books as, like, you can buy a gift certificate at every store now for TGI Fridays or Applebee's or whatever, Disneyland, and they're going to sell Kindle books like that. You actually physically buy the Kindle book, and it's a card, and they activate it at the register, and you can give it as a gift. So there's all kinds of innovative things that lend themselves to a footprint. What do you think, Alan? I'm not as surprised about this, and we've talked about this, I think, back in like 2011.
As I said then, I'll believe it when I see it, but for the most part, I don't care. I think the only thing about this that really bugs me is that Amazon spent a great deal of time driving bookstores out of the malls. Now it's sweeping in like a vulture.
Well, isn't that business 101?
Yeah, it doesn't mean I have to praise them for it because I think it's a pretty slimy business practice.
The big regional gas chain comes in with their fancy gas station and their sandwiches, and the gas is 5 cents a gallon. Everyone dies, and then it's not 5 cents anymore. This is not new. Okay, so there we go. I'm excited about it. I'm going to see what happens. Are you anti-Amazon? Silence. Rare from Alan. All right, so okay, this one you're gonna have to explain to me because I saw this at the last minute, right? I mean, like 5 minutes before I invited you. Forbes, a site I like, although sometimes they have garbage content, but less so of late. Forbes has they started doing this thing where if you open them up and you have an ad blocker employed, they won't let you read the article. You get to the interstitial stage and it says, "Oh, hello there again. We see you have an ad blocker. Please disable it to enjoy our content." And so then I open it up in an incognito window or a porn window, as Pam notes in her comments, and then it works because I don't have my ad blocker installed in that. So now apparently they're serving up some sort of pop under malware type stuff. And I don't know. I didn't. I skimmed it, but I didn't tell if there was a response from Forbes on this, and if this was deliberate or something snuck in there, as happens, and has happened to other big outfits where they weren't aware that there was malicious code in there. We've all seen on Google
Well,
in search results like, "Oh, this site is dangerous," when it's something like like MSNBC. I mean, just obviously something.
well, I consider MSNBC pretty dangerous. Um, keep in mind that most of these sites, including Forbes, doesn't actually negotiate where their advertising comes from. They've contracted with an ad network to provide their ads. Google is an ad network too, let's remember. So Forbes is basically trusting whatever the ad network is to only give up relevant, good advertising. And when the ad network doesn't, then Forbes looks like, an idiot. And that's what happened in this case, is that Forbes said, please turn your ad blocker off. You turn the ad blocker off, and suddenly you get malware trying to load onto your machine. And, because of that, Forbes looks like they're a pile of insecure idiots. And it's not their fault because, well, it is their fault because they trusted an ad network that didn't robustly screen their advertising.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've seen. That's what I'm thinking. I can't imagine Forbes would deliberately do this. I mean, I don't think they're sophisticated enough to do something like this on purpose.
Well, they're not, but they need to be sophisticated enough to prevent such action. Obviously, they're sophisticated enough to check to see if you've got an ad blocker.
I think it's if you go to just like a company, if they're using like DoubleClick, which is owned by Google, or Google AdSense, which is what you would use if you're hosting AdWords if you're buying, then I would feel safer than if I was using some, Nigerian ad syndicate. And also the sites.
But the Nigerian ad syndicate probably pays you more.
I'm sure. And if you go to these things like Taboola recommends, and it's like, 300 photos of dead celebrities. You won't believe number 17, and you got to, it's like a slideshow, and you got to click, and there's like 1,000 freaking ads on there. You're in the cesspool, right? We're in the part of town where the hookers are, but you shouldn't feel that way going to something like Forbes. But it's only noteworthy that this was on Forbes.
Really? You don't think there are prostitutes in Forbes's office suite?
I don't know. You want to go down and get serviced?
Clearly, you have never been on Wall Street.
Are they called hookers or call girls? I guess
They are escorts, Dan.
escorts. Yes, they hang out at dinner. Okay. All right. Next. Facebook. Okay, Facebook says celebrates 12th birthday with Friends Day videos. And this is a ripoff. Have you gotten yours, Alan? You get a notification when they do it.
Yeah.
So mine was really good. I was impressed. And it's got music, and it's if you're on Facebook, and everyone's on Facebook, you should see something. And this was a ripoff of a Google Plus feature from a couple years ago.
Well, Facebook also has had the feature for a couple of years.
They introduced it this year. The Friends Day they've had for some time, but I don't think this video thing they had.
They've had a video year in review for the past few years.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it said we've introduced Friends Day videos. Well, this isn't a year in review. This is different.
Well, it's only slightly different.
Well, it's February. They're late if it's the end of year.
No, they had their end of the year videos as well.
Okay.
I mean, fundamentally, it's the same thing.
So you get one at the end of the year, then you get one.
It's using a machine learning system to identify your best photos and presenting them to you in a nice format.
Okay.
How is that different from the year-end photos?
I don't know.
It isn't, Dan.
It's in February. The most depressing part of my life is between February and January, that 10-month gap when I don't have any Facebook videos. Anyway, I think it's well done.
It is well done.
So kudos to Zuckerberg, even though he's been muted by Google, along with Britney Spears. Okay, next is this guy's created this Twitter bot to troll Comcast. This is pretty creative. I guess he was frustrated with his bandwidth, and so every time the bandwidth dips below like 90% of what he's supposed to get for any period of time, up or down, it tweets to Comcast Cares, Xfinity, Comcast, whatever. And they say, like, he got a response. Some engineer said something, on his Reddit forum. And we don't know if it was just like some guy who worked at Comcast and he happened to be perusing Reddit, on his lunch break or in between calls, or if it was like, that's pretty creative. But Comcast is a monopoly in a lot of the areas where it exists, and they really don't care what you do. You can put a sign up in your yard, you can tweet at them, you can Facebook post them, you can get angry at them, and they don't care. Because it's good to be the king. All right, so there. YouTube's complaint system. This is yet another story about a guy pissed off and getting a false flag, unable to deal with it, and then by the time they fix it and you go through all the hoops, the initial burst is gone and your views go down to a trickle, and so they'll monetize it after you've gotten your 100,000 views, and now you're going to get like 500 views monetized, but you didn't get the 100,000 monetized. So it gets to, it sucks, and they're arrogant about it. But that said, it's difficult to have a system that 1 billion people use for free and be able to have like white glove service for everybody when something goes wrong. Anything on those things?
No.
Okay, George Cozy is the raptor whisperer because in the Netherlands they've got this thing where they're training eagles to snatch. I guess it wasn't much of a training. I guess they're just training them to be more gentle, because there are plenty of videos of some guy with his like quadcopter. Oh, I got my new $1,000. Um, you know, the wife's gonna kill me, and then he's up there, and this, falcon comes and like just beats the hell out of it, knocks it to the ground. But it's pretty cool. You should check it out. We got the link below the video. Um, anything at all? Do we have any comments?
Nope.
All right. All right. So next is how was your week, Alan Furstenberg?
I've had better.
You're a real killjoy tonight.
What, you just want me to say it sucked?
No. We reserve that for our topics. All right. So,
How was your week, Dan?
well, it was busy. We did the paper. The snow melted quickly. I'm at a sit-down desk now instead of my stand-up desk because my stool was destroyed. It was cheaply done. I swear to God, it was like a $20 stool from Walmart. And it's coming undone. It's just unsafe.
You see, that's what happens when big box stores drive out smaller retailers.
I should have gone to a small craft store and had someone make an artisan wooden stool and paid $120 instead of $20.
And it would have lasted more than 6 times as long as the piece of crap you bought from Walmart.
True. All right, so that happened. So now I'm going to sit down desk. And the reason I'm
plus your neighbor, who probably would have bought advertising from you had they still been in business, which they're not because Walmart drove them out, would now, have a decent wage instead of having to rely on Walmart and food stamps.
Walmart now probably pays better than a lot of the mom and pop shops. Everyone's making over 10 as of February 1st. Kids making 1080 or something crazy. Okay, next is I was on a cell phone call with my parents tonight, and there was like crosstalk. There was another conversation going on. It sounded like my mom had me on speaker, and my dad was like weighing in, but it wasn't him. It was another conversation. And then at one point, I heard someone say, "Wait, there's something else going on here." And then I said, "Hang on, Mom, don't say anything. Hello, can you hear me? Is there someone there? Hello, this is Dan. Who am I speaking with?" Right? And I didn't get any response. But then I heard something. I don't know. How common is that? I haven't had that in years. There used to be a landline thing. Maybe one other time I've heard that on the cell phone. Is that common? Must not be common.
No, it's a landline thing.
Yeah, weird.
Were your parents on a cell phone too?
They were on a landline.
So it was a landline thing.
Believe it or not, my 77-year-old parents have a landline. All right, so I need
And when we say landline, was it a POT system or is it a fiber system?
a real one, like phone company, not.
So it's POTS.
It's plain old telephone system, POTS. Yeah, because he said the cable Comcast constantly tries to get him, and he's like, no, because if the power goes out, I have no phone. The only reason to have a landline is, and they both have cell phones and they have brand new iMacs, but they love their landline. All right, so I noticed you can't buy a case like like not a briefcase, but like a lawyer bag, like a true, you know what I mean? Like a leather thing with a strap.
You mean they don't sell them at Walmart?
Well, you can't. They sell pleather or leatherette.
So
I was
the
looking on
fine
Amazon
briefcase
too.
store was driven out of business by Walmart, and your neighbor who used to sell these things and probably would have advertised in your newspaper is so what is this that you're bitching about?
You're like those people in the pizza forum. And I love the pizzamaking.com. I'm a paid sponsor member. It's like $10 a year or something.
Dan, focus.
You're like the guy in the pizza forum who, if you don't have a buffalo in your backyard and you're putting fresh buffalo mozzarella on that, you might as well eat a frozen crap from a box. I mean, these purists. All right. So anyway, you can't buy one that's not a laptop case. They're all laptop oriented now. You can't just buy a non-laptop case, a bag, whatever. So that's frustrating. And another thing about feeling old is I have a coffee, what do you call it? The percolator, right? So I wanted to get some coffee, and I tried my Vitamix to grind the beans, not so much, right? Because if a percolator is the coffee pot that has the metal tube in the center, and it shoots the water through the coffee repeatedly until it reaches a certain temperature, and it's a stronger brew than, and anyway, regular coffee doesn't work for that because it will fall out the holes in the bottom. It's too finely ground. It's designed for filters in a drip machine, which apparently everyone uses now if they're not using that awful Keurig system. I say awful because of the DMA or DRM that they introduced with 2.0. But anyway, it used to be, Alan, do you remember when you were a kid, you go to the grocery store and you could buy the coffee beans, and there was this big-ass metal grinder. You'd pour the beans in the top, and you'd set the dial and hit the button, and it would grind the coffee beans. They don't have that anymore. I checked Food Lion. I checked Martin's, which is the high-end grocery store in town, and I checked
They don't
Wally
have it
World.
anymore.
Why not? They had it just a few
Because
years ago.
anybody who actually wants ground beans has their own grinder now.
Well, yeah, but if you want,
That way you don't have to contaminate your precious roasted beans with the moron in front of you who decided to use some flavored shit. Or even worse, who decided to use decaffeinated beans, and that's contaminating your precious roasted beans.
I am currently drinking tea, and it's decaffeinated tea.
There's a string attached to your, what the hell is that?
What do you want from me? I'm not
tea.
going to do full silver service here and for the show.
There's a string attached to your tea.
There are many strings attached. Anyway, I was just surprised that the fancy if you've ever seen like a Giant or Kroger, the fancier grocery stores, they don't even have it.
No, of course they don't. Like I said, because people who actually grind their beans have their own grinder now.
But you can't. Okay, I guess I have to get a grinder. I mean, my Vitamix works, but it doesn't.
Obviously not.
It's not totally consistent. It's not as good as when you have, like, some of the coffee will be, maybe I need to try it a few more times, but some will be the right coarseness to work well in the percolator and not fall through the holes. And then, like, you have to brew twice as much coffee because you can't drink the bottom half. Not that there's anything wrong with eating or drinking coffee beans. In fact, you can buy chocolate-covered coffee beans. You talk about a sugar high. But anyway, I was just surprised at that.
That's not a sugar high, Dan.
It's a caffeine sugar high.
I was going to say there is no sugar in a coffee bean.
In a chocolate-covered coffee bean, you can. That's what I said. Chocolate-covered coffee beans.
And then you said talk about a sugar high, but that's only because, I mean, it's got this thin layer of chocolate on it. It's not like there's a lot of sugar in that thin layer.
And then here's the problem with search. I was trying to figure out why, like, do no Walmarts have a coffee grinder? And I don't mean like for sale.
No, of course not, because they drove out your coffee company, your neighbor who used to run a coffee company, okay, and now who would have advertised in your paper. See, that's 3 companies so far that you would have had more advertising for, Dan.
Okay, so anyway, I tried to do a Google search to find out if any Walmarts have a coffee grinder. And you can't determine that because it assumes you want to purchase a coffee grinder. So it lists the various coffee grinders you can buy. That's not what I want to know. I want to know that they have the big-ass metal one because it works better. See, my Vitamix, it has a blade at the bottom, so you're not getting completely consistent product. The big machines have a single grinder and a chute, so it grinds the whole thing exactly the same. That's what I'm after. I bet I could buy a used one pretty cheap because they've taken them all out of the stores. Obviously, a first world problem, because in the developing world, they usually use instant coffee. And finally, I'm on a low carb diet, and I discovered this wonderful, completely glutton thing. You can make ice cream with like no carbs or very little, and in the Vitamix, a full cup of cream, heavy whipping cream, right? Like 1,000 fat grams, and then like 2 heaping cups of ice, or 3 if you want it really thick, and then some vanilla extract from Costco, which probably has like a carb, and then some Splenda or sucralose. I use the pure sucralose, not the Splenda, and then you get this wonderful ice cream. It tastes like a Wendy's Frosty kind of thing. Anyway, Alan is obviously deceased, which happens about this time every Friday. Anyway, so all that happened.
No, keep talking, Dan. It's fine.
Am I better than a golf game at knocking you out? All right, so who do you like in the Super Bowl?
I have to think about that one.
My mom is all about some North Carolina. She says,
Who am I for in the Super Bowl? I have no idea who's playing. I don't care.
North Carolina and the team that's going to lose. Hey, what's your prediction? What's your prediction? Not necessarily, not who you like, but who do you think in New Hampshire? Hillary and Bernie, Trump, Rubio, Cruz. Any predictions? Again, not
Nope.
endorsements, just predictions.
Nope. No, honestly, I've got no predictions. I haven't been studying the polls. I haven't been studying how the state's reacting. I can't say I don't care about this one because, I do. But I haven't been strongly paying attention. I'm not a voter there.
Any advice you would give? Again, not an endorsement. Do you have any advice you would give to Hillary and Bernie? If you had to, for 5 seconds, be an advisor to Bernie and then to Hillary, do you have any advice on what they...
No, but can I give some advice to the journalists, the news pundits, the other politicians who are chiming in on Hillary versus Bernie? Stop being assholes.
You mean majoring in the minors, the GAF, etc.?
No, I mean, every debate so far everything I've heard so far, when Sanders and Clinton talk to each other, debate, discuss the issues, they're actually discussing the issues. They're not talking about the bullshit. Okay, whereas all of the journalists seem to have this obsession with the bullshit, as opposed to actual, things that are important. So when I hear journalists and when I hear other politicians saying things like Hillary is being shrill, that only says to me that they honestly don't really care about the issues. They care about some bullshit. When I hear them say things like nobody will elect, a socialist Jew, that tells me they don't care about the issues. They just care about the bullshit.
I don't think anybody cares if he's Jewish. I think they care that he's going to tax you into oblivion and create a bunch of...
Well, then here's the thing. Then maybe the journalist should say that, and maybe they should actually explore where he claims to be getting the money for his programs from. Because it doesn't seem to be taxes from what I've been able to tell.
Maybe it's because I didn't grow up in this country until like the 9th grade. Maybe it's because I don't know what, we're probably similar in age. I may be older than you. But I don't know anybody. I've never heard anyone be anti-Semitic. I don't know anybody who's ever like, oh, that guy's Jewish. I don't understand that at all. Any more than, oh, he wears glasses. Or, I mean, it's just like, I don't get that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm geographically...
And why are you obsessing about that one line that I said as opposed to what I said about Hillary?
I don't know. It's a chip you employ. You employed a couple times before. Or you've noticed. I just don't think I don't think that that's the issue. I think it's, I didn't even know.
If it's not the issue, why are journalists saying it? About both of them.
I didn't hear that. I heard he was a
I hear it
socialist.
all the time, Dan,
Okay.
from mainstream journalists.
I enjoyed, on your point, I really enjoyed the Anderson Cooper, the town hall format, where they each on for an hour, and the questions from the audience. Did you see the one that was just a few nights ago on
No,
CNN? It was really good, and I'm sure they have it on demand if you want to watch it. It was the questions were
I can
really
quite
good.
assure you I don't.
There was someone who had a fatal, was dying, and said, like, can you tell me why I shouldn't be allowed to have marijuana, to, and she listed her symptoms, or whatever it was. It was something like that. Some really, just really good questions you would never get from, Jake Tapper. Not to, I mean, I like Jake, but it was a really good thing. And and then at the end they said, tell us some stuff about you we wouldn't know. And Hillary joked, I don't think there's anything about me that people don't know. My advice for Sanders, I would say keep with the chicken in the pot, free college. You're going to get young people all excited. That helped Obama a lot. Hillary, my advice to Hillary would be to focus on your legacy. It's Clinton that has and the Republicans hate Clinton, but the economy was strong. The stock market tripled when Clinton was president. You can make then it collapsed in 05 and 08, the real estate, and then it collapsed. But there are fond memories of the Clinton administration. And you could say, oh, she hadn't done anything. Well, she kind of did. And so that's what I would go. I would go with like experience, Secretary of State, Senator, and you get like the 2-for-1 package, which is what Bill said about his wife early on, and that didn't go over well. On the Republican side, I think people are misreading Trump if they think that this right-wing, like, he's not a misogynist. He is not a racist. And I'll tell you what, if he gets the nomination, you talk about somebody racing to the center or left of center in the mainstream in the general election. You have never seen anyone moderate more quickly than Donald Trump will if he gets the nomination. But I would push that.
You don't think he's a misogynist or racist?
Misogynist being someone who hates women, racist
Uh-huh.
being someone who, well, I guess that could be different. When Jesse Jackson, is Jesse Jackson a racist?
Have your opinion. Fine. Mind you, I don't disagree with you on your other point that he will race for the center as soon as he gets the nomination. But
he might make Bloomberg look conservative. I mean, he is no right winger, and you just have to look at what he said in the past. And he's doing his playbook. If you read this book, he says, say outrageous things, get attention. It doesn't matter what you're saying.
I've been listening to this asshole for decades.
Yeah, he's really on the news now. And then I would say to Cruz, I hate Cruz with a passion. I think he's a fraud. He's just an awful human being, and I will never forgive him. I think he's full of shit. I think he doesn't believe anything. And I remember he shut down Skyline Drive.
Well, you just described a politician there, Dan.
Well, he's especially in the bowels of the cesspool that is American political culture. And we don't own nasty politics. That's worldwide. But Cruz was the architect of the government shutdown. And just one example I've talked about before, I'll be very brief. They shut down Skyline Drive, Shenandoah National Park. It was the busiest weekend of the year, like 100,000 people in a weekend. Crazy. And they ended up, 2 weeks later, of course, they turned it back on, and everyone got paid, but they lost all the revenue. So they had all the expenses and none of the revenue from their busiest weekend, and families were deprived of going to Skyline Drive. It actually costs more to shut the government down than to leave it open. And then his reason was to stop Obamacare. Well, Obamacare was fully funded independently of the quote-unquote government shutdown. It didn't impact Obamacare at all, and he knew it wouldn't. He's just a sleazy SOB. I cannot stand the guy. I think he's completely fake and a scumbag. Rubio, I think, has potential. I think he's young, but really he's only a couple years younger than Obama was at this point when he was running. Cruz and Rubio are, single-term senators. Rubio gets a bum rap that he's not voting. Neither did Obama when he was running. Neither did most senators. you can't run for president and vote every vote. It's just you can't do it logistically. But I'd like to see Rubio in 10 years. And then Jeb needs to get angry and get in somebody's face. I think he's got a lot of potential, and I don't think he kind of reminds me of his dad running for re-election, kind of lackadaisical. And Jeb, remember, lost, not by much, when he ran for against Lawton Childs, I think in '94. He lost the governorship, and his brother was running in Texas and won the same year. And then Jeb ran again in '98 and won. So sometimes Jeb needs us, doesn't make it the first run out. Christie, I liked him a lot, but the bridge thing was bad, and he's kind of like, Fiorina just seems pissed off all the time, but I've seen glimpses of her actually smiling and joking around. I think she needs more of that, more personality, and less this.
The last time I saw Fiorina smiled was when she essentially shot HP in the head.
Yeah, I wouldn't run on her experience. I don't know. And then Kasich is actually an interesting candidate. I'm not sure why he's not getting any traction. He's not an extremist. He's a pretty moderate Republican. Maybe that's why he's not getting any traction.
Well, that explains why he's not getting any traction.
I think Hillary needs to push that she can actually get stuff done. Her husband had a history of compromise. She's learned from the best politician alive that she knows something about the economy. That's what I would push, certainly in the general election. And on the, I would say Trump needs to just push. I can't be bought. I'm the only guy besides Sanders who isn't taking money from big corporations. Everyone else is a tool, and they will do exactly what they're told from their benefactors. So that's my analysis. Anything else? Alan F.
We had a number of comments.
Oh yeah, let's go to comments.
YouTube, by the way,
please.
All of which are telling you get a damn coffee grinder. Oh. And also there are percolator filters. And if you're actually going to drink that crap,
it's good. 8 o'clock coffee is good. I think it's the #1 brand.
It's coffee. It's crap.
I like decaf coffee at night. I like leaded in the morning.
Ugh.
Says coffee the guy with sugar water cans literally surrounding him.
What makes you think I drink this stuff?
They're all empty.
What makes you think I drink them?
You're advocating them. Just because I have bags of heroin surrounding me doesn't mean.
I don't know if heroin actually. It used to be there was some really cool advertising printed on drugs, and in certain locations that advertising is still a collector's item.
Like baseball cards. Costco still has the coffee grinders.
Do you actually buy the baseball cards for the gum? How many times have you actually chewed the gum from your baseball cards?
Oh, it's nasty, and it's a little tiny piece of gum.
Right. So do you actually eat it when you got your baseball cards?
Yeah, because I was a child. It's something I grew out of.
This explains a lot about you, Dan.
Remember Pixie Sticks? Can you imagine trying to eat one of those things now? Those big-ass... The big ones, like a yardstick long or 2 feet or something. Oh,
pure sugar.
God, I can't imagine trying to eat that crap.
I'll remember to send you a package next time.
Yeah. Okay, so Dan's rant hour, and I'll check the percolator filters. I'll see how that goes. Look for Burr Grinder, B-U-R-R. Or you should shop Amazon, Davesh says. And I think he likes Sanders. And you have to be crazy to get any attention in the GOP. On that, we can agree. Especially when there's so many of them. And Pam likes Pixie Sticks. Why is that not surprising? All right, thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. McDermott Report is every Friday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific on YouTube Live and other platforms. But we hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back next week with another exciting issue. Hopefully Pam will join us if she ends her boycott of the program. We'd love to have her back, as always. Okay, thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Until then, have a great week. We'll see you this Friday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, for another McDermott Report. Cheers.